Morning all, it's a cold autumn day here in the UK and I'm in the train room installing some switch machines today. I've received some Thames Valley Depot products. I've got 3 servo switch machines, a QuadLN servo decoder and a remote aligner which makes it easy to program the servos. I'll go through those with you now. Now this is the Thames Valley micro switch machine, which is a completely assembled servo switch machine. You can see here there's the servo motor, a laser cut mount, a micro switch for your frogs, and the throw wire. It also has a connector for connecting it straight into the QuadLN decoder. So really nice piece of kit, completely assembled and so easy to install. Really well thought out. This is the Thames Valley Depot QuadLN servo decoder, which controls up to 4 servos. It has 2 low connect connectors for connecting into your low connect network. It also has 3 outputs on the side. The first one is for the servos. So from your servo motor you connect using this little connector. It plugs straight in. Just makes it a lot easier, no fiddling about with screw connectors or solder connections. The other 2 offer LEDs and push buttons. You can either use your own push buttons or you can get a complete assembled unit from Thames Valley, which includes the push button and an LED and a neat little fixture which just plugs into the straight into the side of your layout, and it has a cable connected to it with a plug like that just plugs straight into this board over here, which makes it really plug and play. So simple and really well thought out. On the side over here is a connector for an expansion board. Thames Valley has a little daughter board which has connectors for relays. They've got little relay boards to plug in. So if you want to use the relays for powering your frogs and other accessories, that is really simple to add. I'll show you how this all programs up later on, but what another feature they've done is make it really simple to use JMRI to program this. The latest version of JMRI has the sheet for programming this particular board, so every function of this board can be done straight from JMRI, so no fiddling about with CVs or anything via your throttle. You can just do it straight from JMRI. Now this is a neat bit of kit. This is the remote aligner, which plugs straight into the Thames Valley QuadLN decoder. It has a DIN plug which plugs into the decoder one end and into the remote aligner on the other end. Now what this does is it makes it really easy to line up your switches to align the point motors without having to go underneath the layout each time, pressing your programming button, going up again, check if they're aligned. You can do everything from above the layout. So with this little board you can select your point motor, so your output, so you can say, okay, well I want to program the switch 1. You can then press that and you can align them with these 2 buttons here, so you can throw them one direction, you can select the amount of throw and the other direction as well. It just makes it so easy to do it. A really well thought out piece of kit. Now this is where I'm going to be installing my switch machines. I've got a single slip on this side over here and a single switch on this side. I'm going to be needing 3 machines for this. Now you can see I've already installed one over here, and I will show you just now how I've installed that one. But I will be getting all 3 installed by the end of today, and I'll show you how I'm going to program up the decoder and get them all lined up. This is where the throw wire comes through from the servo motor and is connected to the single slip. I've drilled a 1/2 inch hole which allows plenty of movement for the throw wire. I'm not too worried about the neatness on this side, as this will all be hidden by a hill anyway. This is the servo I've installed already. Really easy to install using the double-sided tape that comes with it. So it's easy to line it up, and once lined up you can just install it using the mounting screws which come with it as well. I just need to add the wires for the frog, and then I can plug it into the decoder. Right, I've installed the second servo. As you can see, both servos are installed. I've also installed the QuadLN decoder and connected it through to the LocoNet and powered it up. I've also added the connection to the remote aligner. I'll show you that just now. First of all, I'm going to program the address on the LN decoder. As you can see here, the two programming lights are flashing for the address. I've installed the address jumper, so the device is now ready to accept an address for programming. So I will now go and set that up. I've chosen 100 as my start address for this decoder. As you can see, I've entered it here on the screen, and it's going to be entered into the system when I press throw. So if I press the throw button, that should now have programmed the decoder. I'll go and check it. The programming light should have gone solid, and I'll just confirm that it's been changed. Right, the programming lights are now solid, so that tells me that the address has been set, and I will now be able to align the points. I'm now going to select which switch I'd like to throw. So I'm going to use switch number 2, which on this board is marked as number 1. So switch number 1 on this is 0, and it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I switch the aligner on, I can now choose, using these buttons, which switch I'd like to throw. So I'm going to use 1, and I'll select it. I can now choose the resistance that I would like. This is in case your switch is a bit stiff. You can make it a light resistance. So I'm going to choose the resistance 1, and now press this button. Now you see the closed light is flashing. Now what is happening now is the switch motor is moving very slowly into the closed position until it meets resistance. Once it has done that, it'll start moving into the thrown position, which it does now. It moves into the other position. Once it meets resistance, it will then save its settings, and that's the alignment done. You can either do the alignment using this board, or you can use the JMRI sheet, which is really simple. It just means that you are further away. You can't watch it in action unless you have your laptop or your computer near the switch. But you can do more fine adjustments with that, and I'll show you a bit of that later. Now this is the JMRI sheet for the QuadLN decoder. You can see at the top you have various tabs. Now the first tab that I'm going to show you is the QuadLN, which is the main programming tab for this decoder, where you set the address of the decoder and the various start addresses for the servo, for the lock, and for the sensor. Now the lock address is quite a useful one. That is used if you want to have local access to the switches. So if you want the local crews to be able to throw a switch manually, or you can lock it if you want to have it under dispatcher control. So you can give them access by throwing this into the thrown position. You can give them local access, or you can lock it again so they can't change the point. Quite useful if you're using automation, or if you've got crews who are switching on the main line. Now there are lots of other options on this sheet. I'm not going to go into them all because that can be covered in the manual if you want to download that from the Tam Valley Depot website. There are quite a lot of options to go through, so I'm just giving you a brief overview of this. At the top you have 4 groups. Now each group is for a switch machine, for a servo. So if I go to group 1, you can see here there's the address for this particular servo. That second address is for the lock address, so each servo has its own lock address. This section under travel is used for the position of the servo. So you can see at the moment closed is set for 2300 and thrown for 20. Now this tells the servo motor when to stop. So in the thrown position it knows that at number 20 it must stop, and in the closed position 2300 it must stop. Though this is all set when you do the remote alignment, or if you do the manual alignment, it sets these numbers which are then read into the JMRI sheet. You can then also do other settings as well. You can change the speed of the motor, so you can have it run faster or slower depending on your preference. You've got different a lot of different options here. You've got your outputs, you've got your locks, so you can have local lockout, you can have midpoint if you've got a, for example, a three-way switch, or if you're using for signals, possibly, you can use the midpoint, say a semaphore signal, for example. For most use, you'd use it for either none or local lockout. So that's when you want your local crews to be able to unlock the switch for switching moves on the main. And again, there are a lot of options here that I'm not going to go through. You've got your different auxiliary input-output settings as well. This is for each one. You can also set routes. So you can set up routes on this if you've got a yard throat, or any route that requires the throwing of more than one servo. So that's all easily set up. So I'm not going to go through into more detail. That is all available in the manual. There's so much to go through here. But this is just to give you an idea of what can be done. At the moment, I'm using this on program on the main, which is a really useful function of this. So if I've realized that actually the programming isn't done exactly like I wanted, I could make the throw a bit different. I can just go into JMRI, change my positions over here, click on write full sheet or write changes on sheet, and it sends it straight to the decoder. So it just means I can change any settings I want at a later stage without having to plug in the remote aligner and do any realignments. I can just do very fine adjustments using the screen, which is really, really useful. Anyway, that's just giving you an idea of the JMRI programming of this decoder. I will now go and test to see if everything is working properly. Just to show you the operation of the servos from underneath the board. Apologies for the wires, I haven't connected all the wires up yet, so they are slightly in the way, but you should be able to see the motion of the servos. So I'm going to put the left hand one into the thrown position. And now into closed. You can see as it hits the micro switch as it goes across to change the frog polarity. And now the same with the right hand one. And back again. So there we go, that just shows the operation of these two. It's all programmed up now, so I'm going to test these turnouts. So the one on the left, it should be thrown. And then closed. And now the one on the right, thrown. This one takes a bit longer. And closed. Now I need to find out why this one is jumping like that. There's no spring in the turnout, so it possibly is catching somewhere. So that is a task for later on, and to see what is happening there. I still need to do the single switch, but I will do that later on. The final part of my testing is to make sure a locomotive goes through the single slip in all directions. So I've set it to go from the yard onto main 1, which is the track on the right. Take it back. I will now set it to go from the yard to main 2. So we'll just throw the switch. Okay. That works well. Alright, now we'll do it from main 2 straight across the single slip. I'll throw the motor. Okay, let's go. And there we go, all working well. So that's all tested. All that's left to do now is just to do the final motor on the single switch, which is on main 1, just out of the picture on the bottom right. And once I've done that, I can start doing the rest of my scenery and the ballasting, and I can get my yard in full operation. Thanks for watching, and I hope to have another update coming soon as I progress with the scenery and the final part of my yard. My next project after that is to start on the locomotive facility. So watch out for further updates. See you soon.